Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. For this video, I have one more game mechanic to show you for my dice rolling app. So let's get to it. So here I have my project open and playing, and down at the bottom you'll notice a new menu. This is a customization menu for the dice, the ground, and the color of the numbers on the dice. So here if I click open, you can see that the menu animates open. We then have materials for the dice, the ground, and colors for the numbers on the dice. Now if I were to click on one of the colors, you can see the numbers on the dice change color. I can then go to the ground tab and change the background ground material. I can then change the dice material as well. Finally, if I click the close button, the menu then animates closed. Now, as far as stores or customization menus, this system is quite simple, but there are still several components and scripts in order to make this system. So rather than going through each line of code, I'm going to summarize each component and feature required to make this system. Now, first off, we have the UI elements, which started with creating a new panel. This panel I've called pop-up, and this holds our entire customization menu. As child to this object, I have two more panels or UI images. The first I've called bar, and the second I've called panels. The bar object has a horizontal layout group, which helps to format all the different tabs. And as child to this object, I have the 4 different tabs or buttons. The first to open and close the panel. Then the other 3 are for the dice, ground, and number tabs. As child to the panels object, I have our 3 different panels, the dice panel, the ground panel, and the color panel. Each of these objects are pretty much the same. As child to each of them, I have a scroll view, and on the content object, I have a grid layout group. Next, I had to create a prefab, which will be for the material buttons. And the only thing special about this prefab is that it has a script attached to it, which we'll talk about here in a second. Once I created all the UI elements, it was time to make the animations for opening and closing the panel. So here I have the 2 animations, one for opening, one for closing. They're pretty much the same animation, just in reverse. So here you can see the open animation where the panel moves up to about halfway. And as child to my open and close button, I have 2 text objects. One says open, one says close. And in the animation, I just enable the button that I want to show. The close animation is pretty much the same, just in reverse. And I had to set these animations to non-looping. Here I have the animator for the panel. I created an empty state and a trigger parameter called toggle. I then created the transitions going from the empty state to open, from open to close, and from close to empty. For the transition between empty and open, I have exit time turned off, and the condition is set to toggle. From open to close, I have the same exit time is disabled and the condition is toggle. And then from close to empty, has exit time is set to true and there's no condition. Next, let's take a look at the scripts needed for this customization menu. And there were 3 scripts that I needed to create. The first is called Dice Customization Manager. The second is called Simple Tab Switcher. And the third I've called Customization Preview Button. The Dice Customization Manager is the main script to make everything work. Now this script has 3 main jobs. The first is to hold all of the different materials and colors we need for our customization menu. So here we have different variables, which are lists of materials or colors, which we'll use to apply the materials to the dice, the background, or set the color of the numbers. The second job of this script is to initialize our menus with all the different buttons we need. And this basically instantiates a button prefab for each material or color that we have in those lists. After instantiating a button, it then initializes the preview image for that button to be the matching material or color. The third job of this script is to apply the material or color to the dice, background, or numbers when a button is clicked. The next script that we'll look at is the Customization Preview Button script. This script is pretty simple. Now each time a button is instantiated, it's given a type and an index. The type is for whether the button is for the dice, the background, or the number color, and the index is for which material or color that button is for. So here you can see we have a handle click function, which is applied to the on-click listener for this button, and it basically sends the type and the index back to the Dice Customization Manager. Finally, the last script that I needed to make this menu system work is the simple tab switcher. This script just has a list of all the different panels that we want to switch between, and a function that will disable all of the panels except for the panel we want to enable. Now, once I created these three scripts, I saved them and went back to the Unity project. Inside my Unity project, I created an empty game object, which I called Dice Customization Manager, and I applied that script to this object. I then needed to set all the different variables. So here I have my dice, I have my ground plane, I then have all my dice materials, all my ground materials, all the different colors, and these last variables are for initializing the different menus. So I have my material button prefab, I have the different context objects for the different panels, and I have my pop-up animator. For my button prefab, I just needed to attach the customization preview button. None of the variables needed to be set in the inspector because the Dice Customization Manager will initialize these variables when the button is instantiated. Finally, on my pop-up menu, I needed to attach the simple tab switcher script, and then I needed to select each tab button and apply the onClick function. For the open and close button, the Dice Customization Manager script has a toggle panel function, and this function just triggers the toggle parameter of our animator. Then for the dice, ground, and numbers tab, I needed to set the onClick function to the show tab function of my simple tab switcher script. I then set the parameter for each of these tabs to be the index of that tab. After all of this, I now have a working customization menu for my dice, ground, and numbers. And there you have it. I've now created a customization menu for my dice rolling app. Now there's three things that I could probably work on polishing for this feature. The first is to have better UVs on my dice so that the materials actually stitch together better at the seams. The second is to have more original materials or even hand-painted textures, which would help with the first. And the third is to switch out the color selection menu for an actual color gradient. And I've actually shown how to create a color gradient selector in a previous video, so I could take that plugin and apply it here and allow the user to essentially select any color they want for their numbers. Now, if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. And make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you can be up to date with all my latest videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.